Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for D&D today, we have my Disaster Squad mug that, again, was so lovingly made for me by my actual D&D party. It's got a bunch of different settlements that are part of the game on it, and inside of it, we have some of the throat coat that I have had many different times on this show. I really like this one because... again, it's just, I don't really know what the deal with it is, but like it feels nice going down the throat. It is kind of licorice-y, so if you don't like licorice, then you probably wouldn't like it, but it's not really the point. So, anyway, getting into what we're actually talking about today, let's talk about not taking your game too seriously. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's just kick back, take it casual and easy, and not take the game too seriously. So, diving sort of straight into it, let's sort of tackle why this might be a thing that is even in question. The reality is that we base our fantasy things around what we know from the get-go, and we sort of try to find the thing that is closest to what we are going to be experiencing with what we will sort of like reference as our actual source material. So when you look at something like Dungeons & Dragons, which is a very high fantasy type of setting, you might look at something similar to Lord of the Rings to actually sort of like base your setting. Lord of the Rings is a very like rich and beautiful world, but it is also very heavy, and while there are little glimmers of light and whatnot in it, it is ultimately a very dense sort of narrative, and one of ultimately hope, but also... it's pretty dark. If you are in the D&D sphere, your most likely source of inspiration is going to come straight from something like Critical Role. If you are a newer player, that is. If you've been playing for a long time, you know, you've got your own stuff going on, but you probably aren't the one taking a whole lot away from this. Sorry. So if you are looking at Critical Role, you see these, like, immaculately conceived lofty storylines that are woven really, really intricately by these 8 master storytellers, etc., which is fantastic, and there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It is all really, really great material for story and stuff like that. However, on occasion, they get really heavy and really dark, as sort of discussed yesterday in yesterday's episode. And if you haven't watched that one, go check it out. If you are not worried about spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 3, or you are caught up with it, go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, we'll just say that it's a little heavy on occasion. But that sort of like masks the parts where it is fun and light, because so often their fun and light moments are the ones that are broken up by these heavy sort of things that are going on here. And I am here to tell you that you don't have to have a heavy, dense, dark storyline that is overly serious to make your game so engaging and so fun, and really just the best that it possibly can be. Now, at the beginning of 2022, I DM'd a series on this channel called Flavor City, where the players played traditional D&D characters, traditional-ish, who were trying to save the great sorcerer Guy Fieri. It was a stupid concept, it was a lot of fun, we had a really great time with it, and it ended up being a blast. We still talk about it on occasion. Today, it was only 10 sessions long, but it was so much fun. That is the kind of thing that will stick with you. I bring that up as an example because if you look at something like that, there's not a lot of heavy, serious material in it, but it still is a really like fun and engaging story for everybody. You don't have to have those heavy moments for it to be a fun and engaging story. Don't get me wrong. Those heavy moments are what really make the story like stick sometimes, but you don't have to have them like every second of every day. Another couple of really good examples of shows that do this very well are NADPOD and Dungeons & Daddies. Both of those are slapstick comedy essentially, but they do a really, really great job of sprinkling in those heavy moments to really drive home some of the things that they are getting at. And quite frankly, they are some of the most beautiful storytelling that you can find readily available on the internet in a lot of cases. And I highly recommend you check those out, first and foremost. But Dungeons & Daddies the first campaign named Odyssey after the minivan that they have in the Forgotten Realms results in the DM crying in one of the last episodes, like having to stop what he was doing, talking, and just take a second to get himself through the period that he was crying during. And that is the like heaviness that can come with any kind of story that you're introducing there. On top of all of that, having really dumb fun things is dumb and fun. It is not necessarily going to ruin your game to have something really just stupid in your game. I remember seeing I believe it was a Reddit post, or on Instagram a Reddit post, something like that. Somebody talked about how in their game there is a chain magic item store called the Gnome Depot. It's run by gnomes and they make magic items there. Why? Why not? Now, whenever they get to a new town, they go, let's go to the Gnome Depot. Let's find what we need real quick. And it solved that issue for the DM right away without much of an issue. You can keep one ledger, exact same stock everywhere they go. No issue at all. You just have them go to the Gnome Depot. Because the reality is that if you are doing serious, heavy, like layered world building in that capacity, you're going to bog yourself down trying to get into specifics. If you can be dumb and fun and just be like, Gnome Depot, check that off the list. That's all it takes sometimes. You don't have to really go in and be the person that has come up with intricate magic item shops everywhere you go. It is not unreasonable to think that there might be somebody that has franchised and created a series of stores that all sell the exact same thing across several different cities. Just go for it. It's easy. Plus, it really does sort of let your players feel like they have some amount of agency in the world, and that is always a good thing. Quite frankly, it's always a good thing to let your players feel like they have some control in what is going on in the world around them, because they're the ones that have to live in it. You made it up, you did a lot of stuff with it, but they're the ones that really have to like run with it and make it their own, if we're being honest. And so if you are letting them go, oh yeah, I know that guy, I met him at insert insane random thing here, like, I don't know, the halfling trampoline shop, I don't know, pick something, make something up. There's a halfling trampoline shop now, and they can reference that with their backstory, they can connect back to it, they can do something with it, and more importantly, a DM can take that and go, yes, they did. And they have this weird hook now in that player that they can use for whatever they want to. And that is always a good thing to have as a DM. Just something to like latch into your players and drag them out of it. This sort of, as a whole, connects back to my let your players have downtime thing that I talked about a while ago. Just because D&D campaigns get heavy fast. My current players are quite literally in the Citadel on the Plane of the Dead running away from a god right now. And so they had some time to breathe right before this that they enjoyed, and hopefully they will find a way to have some time to breathe after this, because it's been a literal chase for several sessions in a row now. And I am hoping that they manage to like get themselves out of it a little bit, just because I'm worried that they're getting a little bit overstimulated with all of the serious that's going on. And that's fine. That's the reality. Taking a break from the like heaviness of everything that's going on is really, really good if you're running a campaign that is a little bit more like dense and high fantasy type stuff as opposed to comedic kind of stuff. And if you are running one that falls somewhere in the middle, you'd have to understand the value of having those silly, goofy, dumb moments in order to actually fuel the heavier stuff that comes up later. It's just the way that it goes sometimes. And quite frankly, it's a really useful tool for a DM, because the other thing with it is, if you are taking it so seriously as a DM, or you are taking it so seriously as a player, you are putting that out into the table space that everybody else has to pick up on, and it really sort of like drags you down into lore and gritty sort of detail that doesn't necessarily have to be there. I've talked on this channel before about how when you prep things, you don't need to prep like these super intense, super detailed things, because you can make it up on the fly, or you have lists that you can sort of reference and just sort of like pull something out of thin air. If you don't have these really gritty details, they can be weird, fun things that are just like, yeah, Sure, whatever, on the fly. And it allows the game to be a little bit looser, and it allows the game to be a little bit more relaxed, which is what a lot of people are looking for in their games. If you're looking for that heavy detail lore type thing, and that is what works for your table, more power to you. I'm not saying don't have a serious game. I'm just saying let yourself have a little bit of dumb fun with it at the same time, because that is a lot of pressure to just like hold in your brain all of this like existing deep, dense lore. It's just not worth it sometimes, to be quite honest. Sometimes it is more worth it to say, yep, Boblin the Goblin over there as a quest to get you out of the Candy Cane Forest or something like that. It's worth it to just have the dumb hand-wavy stuff on occasion to get you further towards the thing that you actually want to get towards. If you're spending all this time in like this heavy, dense space, this serious space, then you're probably taking a little bit longer to actually get to where you want to be getting to ultimately, because the ultimate goal is to get to the end, because not many D&D campaigns see the end. And so if you are spending a lot of time trying to like flip through notes or trying to dig up this one name in the back of your head that you know is somewhere in there because you wrote it down somewhere, but it's somewhere buried in prep notes, it's okay. If nobody else remembers this, it's okay. Just make it up. And honestly, having dumb things can be really, really good plot motivators, or things that just really sort of push your story right along. Great example of that in Adventure Zone Balance, which is the first arc. The agency, it's been a long time since I listened to that. I should really re-listen to that. The agency that they work for has a massive slot machine, essentially, where you put a coin in, you pull the lever, and you get a magic item. And this is how Griffin just deals with paying them and getting them moved forward. Because in a serious, heavy game, you would have to figure out how much gold they're getting. Then you would have to figure out where they can spend that gold, what they're going to spend that gold on, etc., etc. This one, you just get a coin. Take that coin to the big slot machine, put it in the big slot machine, pull the lever, roll a die, that's what you get. That's your thing. Next up, please. It streamlines the process sometimes, and that's really what you need on occasion. Especially if you are trying to get to a certain point. If there is something coming up that you as a DM especially want to hit by the end of a session, or hit by the end of a mini arc, or hit at a certain point in time, having these dumb fun things can either put put space, there we go, in the story to give you a little bit more padding in order to get you to that beat at the right time, or it can go ahead and suck some of the air out of it to just go ahead and move you forward into the end of where you need to be so that you can hit that beat at the end of that session or the end of that arc, or hit it wherever you are going to try and hit it. And that is such a useful tool. And you can't do that as well with serious things unless you just kind of go hand wavy like, yes, you all shop, done. Which is a perfectly valid way to deal with that, don't get me wrong. It just is faster when it's like, hey, step right up to this big ol' move on. And so I really think that it is more worth it to use those fun, dumb things in this fun, dumb game about fun, dumb people. Because the reality is, nobody smart is going to be an adventurer. Nobody, like, really intelligent is going to be an adventurer, right? Why would you go risking your life if you're that smart? You probably wouldn't. Not really the point. So, the message at the end of the day here, just enjoy your game however you're going to enjoy it. I think it is definitely worth it to just not take it as seriously as maybe it could be. Definitely have those serious moments. I'm not saying get rid of them, but I am saying, like, loosen up a little bit on some of the, like, intense lore stuff. It's not worth it sometimes. Have it written down somewhere, sure, but if you don't have the encyclopedic knowledge on hand, it's okay to make something up and move on. Write it down so you can reference it later, but, like, just let it slide. How do you think I ended up with prom in my high fantasy realm that my adventurers are in? One of the players said, yeah, I met the princess at prom. He's from a noble family. Why not? Seems logical enough. Let's go for it. We got prom now. Just have fun with it. Let it be a dumb game. Let it be a fun, dumb game. And make sure you're really letting yourself have that dumb fun with everybody else. That is what I have to talk to you guys about on that. Let's get on to the shows that we have today. Today we have, in no particular order, Dimension 20, Knocked Prone, Venture Maidens, Trials and Trebuchets, and Roll Out. Those are some of the bigger ones, so, you know, they probably won't see it if you do say, hey, Ben sent me here. But, again, let them know that I sent you, because, again, someday somebody's going to say something, and I'm going to think that it is funny. But until then, I'm going to keep asking you guys to do it. So, with all that said, thank you guys so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link in the episode description. I appreciate all the support. Period. End of sentence. That is all. Yes. Yes. So, with all that said, guys, don't forget, please don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.